ultimately you would want a quality of life measure, where you actually have the person who was affected will subjectively report that the supports that they received because of this actually improve their perceived quality of life and their functioning, and they're at a healthier level. So they're different. Now, those are more difficult things to achieve, but usually these markers are towards a goal, really, of social reintegration and personal health. But probably for your evaluation, you're going to set your markers quite low, like what happened in the year after or whatever. And there are ways of doing that, and there's definitely, if you will, scientific method that can be helpful in doing that.
And I'd have to say, Senator, too, that the usual measures that we use, has this person used drugs? Well, you can do urine tests or hair samples and know whether somebody's been using drugs over the last few days or the last few months for that matter. Have they attended the meetings regularly? Have they gone to their counseling sessions? Have they checked with the parole officer? You can measure all that. What you can't measure is what transformation is actually taking place inside them internally. You can measure external behavior or parameters, but you can't measure internal transformation. And that will show up a year later, or 2 years later, or 5 years later, or 10 years later, by what trajectory their life has followed. There's no way you can measure those things in the short term. These are long-term outcomes.
So if I understand you both properly, Mr. Skinner, you would, because the way it's written, the court must be convinced that there was a success, unless they impose the minimum, the mandatory minimum, which has been suspended. So your testimony in front of a judge would ask if offender A was successful, you will rely on the set of answer you gave me. But you, Mr. Maté, would say, well, I don't know, because the program, how to evaluate if the biopsychosocial environment of offender A was properly evolved, that we don't know. Nobody knows.
In short, I can say, yes, they haven't used drugs. They've come to all their meetings, and they seem sincere. I can say those things.
Okay. That's it.
I can't talk about long-term success in front of a court.
And certainly there are experts in our organization and others who, if from a scientific kind of methodology point of view, and I'm being more hypothetical in my answer, I just realized as you were speaking that your concern is actually what's the information that will inform a judge decision.
Look, that's the bill we're asked to adopt.
Yes.
And we need to convince ourselves that that bill will be workable.
Yes.
But if you have experts working with you who have all written or have some kind of something that they can offer us to reflect on, please inform the clerk, and we will gladly read on that.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, Senator Milne, you have a short supplementary, or
yes, mine actually is a supplementary to yours, Senator Nolan, because I have been taken by Senator Campbell on a tour of the downtown east side, a very superficial tour a few years ago, but I also served on the board of Rapport House in Brampton, which was a shelter for addicted teens. And my question, really following on from what Senator Nolan has asked you about, is how available are the drug treatment courts in both Vancouver and Toronto to the people that you deal with, to your patients, Dr. Maté, and would expanding the drug treatment courts help?
Well,
there are only 6 in Canada.
I know, and the one in Vancouver is a very recent one, I think only in the last couple of years or even less. So statistically I can't tell you how available it is. I don't keep such figures. As I say, I regard them as a encouraging, more enlightened step in the right direction. I'd like to see both the drug courts themselves and the ethic that informs the practice of drug courts be more widespread in this country. That's my only comment.
I think the numbers speak for themselves, Senator. There are only 6, as you say, and so the span of availability is restricted. And I know there have been other submissions that call for the increased availability of these, and I think that would be wise policy at this point to do that.
Thank you.
To answer, Mr. Skinner, the bill is also referring to the new concept of provincial programs. So it's not only restricted to drug treatment court, but also expanded to provincial program. So probably it will expand the access to services.
Senator, if I may make a point.
Yes.
Recently, I gave a talk at Simon Fraser University, and there was a policeman there from Victoria, and he told me about something that I would encourage you to explore. And I didn't know about this program myself, but he told me that at some point in BC, a policeman had the power to force somebody into treatment for a 6-month period. If they didn't follow treatment, they could be re-jailed. And this is a policeman that told me about this. I really hadn't known about it, so I don't know what the name of that bill was or so on. He told me that it was finally stopped because it just didn't work. For you. So it'd be worthwhile for your committee perhaps to hear from somebody who's familiar with that program and why it was finally curtailed. It's not something I know about personally.
Do you remember the name? If you can
No.
remember some
imagine.
information about that, we could explore that. One last question to you, Mr. Maté, if I can. What is the age, how many youth are included in the addiction population of the downtown east side?
Within the last, as I say, I've been working there 11 years, and I've been struck by the increasing number of young people who are coming down there. And
when we're referring to youth, you and I,
I'm talking people in their teens.
minus 18 or 19.
Well, I'm talking about people in their teens.
Okay.
And late teens. I don't tend to treat the ones who are the street kids, except, well, they're not the population I serve, but I've been struck by the increasing number of young people down there, particularly owing to the crystal meth epidemic that has been identified, particularly in BC, but elsewhere in Canada as well. So the population is getting younger. As a matter of fact, some of the older addicts feel more threatened now because of the presence of these more aggressive young people down there.
Thank you. Thank you both for your testimony and comments. That's going to be very helpful. Colleagues, I will suspend for 2 minutes, 2 minutes, to let the video system to shut down. I need your help. We need few decisions to take.